Hey there, thank you so much for joining us in the Headline Books booth at the American Library Association's annual conference. We're in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, and our next author has written a book that brings the love home. Hazell Thomas is here. The book is Money Moves a Nation. It's a civil rights lesson for children. Hazell, this is not a financial literacy book. This is about your hometown.
That's absolutely right, Dave. It's about my hometown, Miami, Mississippi, a town in the Mississippi Delta where American music was born.
It's the home of the blues, the Delta blues, and I have to ask you, how many people roughly live in Money? It's not a big city, right?
Used to be in the early 70s and 80s, 500 people. Currently, it's less than 100 residents.
Something very pivotal in American history happened. It's not a good thing in your hometown.
That's correct. A 14-year-old by the name of Emmett Till was murdered for whistling at a white woman. And surprisingly enough, the anniversary, the 70th anniversary of his death is happening in August.
When you were a little girl, did you know that story?
Yes, I knew the story very well because my mom and dad often talked about the crime that happened in this small town. It shook a lot of people, and also around the world, people were actually hurt about what happened in Miami, Mississippi.
And is that the impetus, the inspiration for you to write this book about your hometown?
That is the inspiration because not a lot is known about Miami, Mississippi. And I often tell people that it is a place where the civil rights movement was ignited. When this happened in August, soon after that, in December, you had the Montgomery boycott. Fascinating history of money.
As a young person, I can't imagine how you must have felt about that when your parents told you that story. Were you scared by what happened? Did they tell you, hey, be careful where you go and what you do? Or what is the messaging so that they didn't make it so traumatic for a kid?
We always were aware that things could happen to you in Miami, Mississippi. Of course, when I was a high school student, when I was a junior in high school, I had 4 of my classmates, well actually one, who was actually murdered. So we were all aware that something could happen. We just had to be very, very careful. And yes, there was a lot of fear growing up.
How, and I'm not going to ask you your age because that's not what gentlemen do, but how, Hazell, segregated was it still when you were in school there?
When I was in school attending Wilkes Elementary School, we had a segregated elementary school, we had a segregated middle school, and also a high school. We did not go to school with whites. And also, we got secondhand materials from our school district.
When you say secondhand materials, like secondhand books, like cast-off books?
Yes, we didn't get the best of books. But one thing about it, Bert, I had the best teacher who taught me with everything they had. And I'm very fortunate to have gone to Wilkes Elementary School, which is no longer with us.
Right. So when you graduated from high school, you left Money and you have lived where? All over the world, right?
I have lived all over the world. I have been very fortunate. I have lived 3 years in Japan. I've traveled Romania, Philippines, Korea. I've been all over the world. And I have lived in several cities. I've lived in Virginia Beach, taught in Virginia Beach, Virginia, upstate New York, Binghamton, New York. And I've also taught in the great state of Michigan. So I had a very rewarding teaching career.
And you still
years.
took your hometown with you everywhere.
Everywhere I go, I take my hometown with me, and I'm always looking for fellow Money Mississippians, always.
So I have to ask you about that because some people, when they leave an area, there's not a lot of money in Money.
That's
You know, it's a town that's shrinking, it's not doing well, a town where some pretty bad stuff happened that put it on the map nationally, and yet it holds a warm place for you. A lot of people would say, I want to get out of here, I don't ever want to look back. But you don't feel that way about your hometown. Why is that?
Right, because as a historian, I'm responsible for studying my family history. Mighty Mississippi is where my roots are planted. And I will always have warmth for Mighty Mississippi, no matter where I go.
All right, so for folks who haven't read the book yet, how do you describe it? If they say, what is your book about, what do you tell them?
I tell them that this is a true story. It's about my grandson, Jonah. He's a fourth grader who was reluctant to come to Mighty Mississippi because of all the stories that he heard on the playground. So he comes to Mighty Mississippi to visit Grandma and Granddad, and he ends up learning a civil rights lesson that he'll never forget. A historical perspective, if you may, that his mom and dad life in the 40s, 50s, and 60s in the Mississippi Delta, their life story.
So in a way, you're keeping your parents' memory alive with this book.
Because since my parents have passed away, but my dad did get a chance to read the book, and I'm so happy that he did. And a lot of my family members still live in Mighty, Mississippi, Greenwood, Mississippi, and the surrounding area. In fact, B.B. King is a distant cousin.
Get out of here.
Absolutely.
What?
Yes.
Hazell, the thrill is no longer gone.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. I'm proud of Mississippi. I'm proud of the cities and so much history.
Hey, you've got a neat family connection with this book. Your husband did the illustrations.
My husband and his best friend, Fritz Hartman, did the illustration, and I'm really fascinated how the book came out, and everyone loves it. They love the colorful the art. They really do love it. And I'm very happy with how it came out.
It's the 70th anniversary of this terrible tragedy with Emmett Till. Is there a danger in that story being told to young people? Or is it important that we don't sweep these things under the rug and we continue to tell that story because we need to learn from the past? What say you?
Well, Bert, it's important to keep the history alive. It's important for young people especially to know what happened to this young boy at the time. There's over 188 historical markers all over Mississippi with fascinating history. And I invite your listeners to check them out because there's so much information that we just don't hear about in history books.
Growing up in a segregated school system, you said you never went to school with white kids.
I never did.
So when you got out of there and you went away and you met other, white folks, did that change your perception of the world, the greater world around you, and maybe what you thought you knew, or maybe what you learned that wasn't right?
It did not change my perspective because my parents equipped me with a lot of information. I was ready to go out into the world and meet with anyone, be with anyone, because growing up in a large family, I came from a family of 8.
8?
Yes, there was a strong foundation, and I knew my mom and dad was always with me, no matter where I went.
8 kids, you probably were not late for dinner much, right? You miss out.
And I was number 5.
You're right in the middle.
Right in the middle.
Is there a lesson, and I know that authors don't want to put lessons in their book and be preachy in there. It's all got to be part of the story. But is there something you would like for young readers to take away from this book?
Absolutely. I would like for young people to know your history. Do not be afraid to learn about your history. Talk to mom, dad, sisters, and brothers, and please use your local library to help you.
So even if it's an uncomfortable part of history, you think it needs to be learned?
Yes. History needs to be told. History needs to be learned. Trust me, as a historian of the family, I found a lot of family secrets, but it's all good. It's empowering. History is good.
What age group do you, in your mind's eye, do you see reading this book? Is it elementary school kids, or is it more you would like for parents to read the book to their kids and be able to answer those questions? How do you see that in your mind's eye?
I see this as a book. It was written for 6 to 8, but this book can be read from 0 to 100. It's just a great book. It's a great book to have in your office, your library, home, school. It's just one of those great books.
You know what I see about that book, Hazell? I see it as a conversation starter.
Yes.
And if we don't talk about things, we never get things accomplished.
Right. And 365 days in a year, civil rights is always a great time to learn.
We in a better place today than we were when you were a kid?
I think we're in a better place. We're in a better place, and I'm encouraged by what I see, so many great people. I just love it. I think we're going to be all right.
I like that attitude, and I love the idea behind Money Moves a Nation, a civil rights lesson for children, from Hazell Thomas, illustrations by her husband Wayne. Thanks for being here in Philadelphia at the American Library Association Conference and in the Headline Books Zoom into Books Pavilion.
Thank you. I would like to thank Kathy, Tees, Headline Books, Zoom into Books, and I would like to thank my publishing company, Miriam Laundry Publishing. Thank you so much. Philadelphia.
The city of brotherly love.
Yes.